Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, May 22nd. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by Jason Cabrera. What's up, Jason?
Not a whole lot, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired, but we're gonna push through, press through. We're gonna make this show happen. And two-man show again. CJ's still not here. I'm starting to think we should start coming up with some sort of crazy magical adventure that he's on, and just kind of narrate it for every time he's not here, and see when we ask him about it when he gets back how much he does not follow what we say. But he claims, and he's been saying this almost every time, he should be back for Friday's show, so we'll see. But, yeah,
okay.
For the two of us, we have a pretty easy topic to talk about today, and I think a very necessary one, especially with a lot of people who are drafting right now. Look, if you're in a standard redraft league and you're drafting right now in May for starters, stop it. What are you doing? But a lot of dynasty leagues, some keeper leagues, things of that nature, they have already begun drafting, having to set keepers. Most of the questions we're getting in right now involve dynasty keepers, so we figure we're going to talk more and more about that topic, and we're going to start off today, as you may have noticed by the title, by talking about some of the main early, late round sleepers. So the ones that are really standing out to us right now based on their average draft positions. Before we get to that, we do have to talk about a little bit on the league-wide headlines. But first, let's do some bookkeeping. Make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round show, and send your questions in through any various form of social media, email, thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. You have a lot of options ahead of you, and links can be found down below, on your player, all around you, on the website, thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. We're around. So with that, let's get to it. Top headlines from around the league. The only real headline worth talking about is, of course, the latest reveal of the NFL Top 100. A lot of the news, we could talk about Terrence Williams being arrested in San Francisco Saturday morning for public intoxication, some speeding, things that happened with other players, the typical off-season arrest stuff, but none of this is really fantasy relevant. Most of it's not going to impact anything. Most of the news is simply who is not showing up to OTAs, and it's optional, so not necessarily a big deal at this point. But the top 100. So we have now numbers 60 through 51, and at number 60 we have Derek Carr, quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. He was number 11 a year ago. I'm surprised he was this high, and I'm really shocked that he was that high. I don't remember him being a top 12 guy last year. I guess he did have a pretty decent year in 2016.
Well, we were really high on him last year. Coming out of last year, everybody was really high on that kid, and then
the weapons.
Didn't have such a great year. So
yeah.
The weapons, and the defense.
The weapons, the defense, that O-line. I mean, he really should have done a lot better than he did this past year, but obviously it is what it is, and he has some players that need to really step up. Amari Cooper, let's see it. Magic fourth year this time.
Right.
So yeah, 60. I mean, I know this is more a popularity contest than it is really anything, but do you think 60 is appropriate for him?
After last year, yeah. I mean, you still got to rate him high because he's still a very good quarterback. He's had a really bad year, so I still have hope for him. I think he can do better than this year.
Fair enough. All right, number 59, Casey Hayward, cornerback, Los Angeles Chargers, 64 a year ago, pretty consistent there. Number 58, Leonard Fournette, obviously unrated a year ago. He was a rookie. Deserving, I would say. Number 57, Trent Williams, tackle for Washington. He was 47 a year ago, so he dropped a little bit here, not surprising. 56, Phillip Rivers, quarterback for the Chargers, 73 a year ago, so he took a big step, and I would say that's also appropriate. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
I'm okay with it. Number 55, Xavier Rhodes, cornerback, Minnesota, 66 a year ago. At 55, I feel like he's a little shortchanged there, personally.
I agree with that. I think he did really well last year. He should be a little higher.
He should be. Now, this next guy, I think most people would say should be up higher. Number 54, Ezekiel Elliott, running back for the Washington Redskins. He was number 7 a year ago, but suspension plus various other things. The team itself, an offensive line, and other problems that they're having. I don't know how much that weighs into this because, again, it's a popularity contest. But 50s for Ezekiel Elliott. I will say surprising. I don't know if it's not appropriate, but it's definitely surprising to actually see that that's where he wound up. Let's see, 53, Aqib Talib, cornerback for now the Rams, obviously was of the Denver Broncos, 37 a year ago, so that'll be interesting to watch. Thank you for that. Number 52, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, now, of course, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, 42 a year ago. I think 52 is a little optimistic based on what I think he's going to be able to do in Cleveland, but we'll see. And then number 51, a guy who we kind of had even a small debate about this before we started recording the show. Case Keenum, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, now of the Denver Broncos. He was unrated a year ago, now at 51. So you see this as deserving, correct?
Well, I mean, after the year he had, yeah. I mean, he came in there. No one was expecting anything from him. And he played very well. It got them into the playoffs. He played well in the playoffs. Had a magical game. I mean, honestly, I think this is deserving. I don't know about the middle of the list. At 51, it may be a bit high. But he had a fantastic year.
Yeah. I mean, nobody can dispute that. It was definitely a magical season, the best one of his career. I'm on record for saying this, and I know a lot of people feel this, that he's made at best case scenario, lateral move to Denver. Most people assume it's kind of a step down with the line, the weapons, and how that team's kind of in a retooling process right now. Vikings are primed to make a Super Bowl run, so I see this as a step down. He's in a new place with a new scheme, a new coach, new weapons, everything he has to get used to. But again, there's no real criteria to this list other than a popularity contest. So we can debate it till we're blue in the face, but on what grounds did he get here? And it's just you assume just simply on his performance last year, not really looking forward into next year, even though it says top 100 of 2018, but really it should be of 2017. The context of it. So yeah, I'm rambling on a little bit there. I know not necessarily fantasy relevant, so we'll move on. And let's get to why everyone's here. Like I mentioned, we talk about how Julio Jones is not expected to be at OTAs. Odell Beckham Jr. is.
Tom Brady.
We could talk about Tom Brady. We could talk about Le'Veon Bell not reporting. We could talk about all this stuff, but bottom line, it's optional stuff. It's not really. Veterans generally don't show up to these things anyway, especially bigger veterans, so it'll be more interesting to talk about once we get to mandatory mini camps, training camps, things of that nature. So, I mean, if something big and newsworthy pops up, you guys will hear it here. We'll talk about it, but as of right now, it's not really newsworthy. So we'll move on. And let's get to our topic of the day, which is our early, late round sleepers. That's a little fun oxymoron there. Early, late. Now, we call this the early, late round sleepers because this will change. This will fluctuate widely between now and August. A lot of these players will move up. Some will maybe fall out of the draft, and you can get them for even better deals because they won't be drafted. Some of these guys will pick up some steam, and they'll move into the mid-rounds, and some other players will fall down, and then they will be the sleepers. It's just one of those things where it's ever-evolving, ever-changing, why we say you should always be mock drafting. If you're not mock drafting, you're definitely not trying. You should be mock drafting. You should be watching these rankings, seeing how these players are fluctuating, because it will dictate kind of how these things go. And this is why I never understand the people who like buy a magazine that was printed back in like February or March and like try and go off that when they're drafting in August, because that information is widely outdated and not relevant anymore. So these guys are top late round sleepers as of the end of May. So that's the disclaimer we're going to put in there. So, I mean, we both put lists of guys up here, but we're going to hit these all as a group. So I'll ask, is there anyone you want to start with, Jason?
Well, I'm going to start from relatively high and work my way down. My first one, I guess I will go with, is Royce Freeman, running back out of Denver. 10th round, I mean, that's going to be decent value for him, but I think he's got a shot at starting. I mean, the only guy they got there that could really start besides him would be Devontae Booker, and I'm not a big believer in Devontae Booker. He's had his opportunities, and he hasn't done much with them. Royce Freeman is bigger back, 6 foot, 229 pounds. I've mentioned him before. He's someone really to keep your eye on. I think this is somebody that could break out this year and become the workhorse back for Denver.
Yeah, couple things that I will point out with this is Devontae Booker is actually going about a round later. So it's interesting. Yep. It's going to be definitely something worth watching because it's definitely going to be a battle between Royce Freeman and Devontae Booker. Now, Devontae Booker, this is his third year. He's got time there. We've seen flashes, but we've seen kind of like you pointed out, He's shown that he's not really been able to handle the workload when given the opportunity. A 4th-round pick back in 2016. Now, this year, they burn higher draft capital. They bring in a 3rd-round rookie and a guy that we all like. So, I mean, I think that it's going to be very interesting to watch. Behind them, they don't really have much. They have D'Angelo Henderson, who is a 6th-round pick from last year's draft, who I was just arrested, I believe was the one, if I remember correctly, without bringing up the news article. So that may take him out of things. And then they drafted David Williams in the 7th round this year. So that's really the extent of the running back core. So you're very safe in investing in either Royce Freeman or Devontae Booker. And if you don't get one, I mean, maybe you just grab the other in case there's an injury. So it could be a handcuff situation, could be just a late round value. It's definitely worth monitoring as we move forward, and obviously we'll have a lot more clarity on this as we move further into the offseason. So, no, I agree.
Right.
Either one of these guys, they're both going late, and I think it's just because really no clarity in Denver right now. So, yeah.
Yep.
I'm amazed that neither one is going higher than double-digit rounds, though. You'd think one of these guys would be going at least as a mid-round value, but here we are.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be wrong. So, all right, let's move on to, let's go with Ronald Jones, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Ronald Jones, he is currently going as the 2nd pick in the 10th round, so a little bit higher than the guys that we've mentioned to this point. And, I mean, I don't know what we really need to say here. Ronald Jones, he was drafted this year. He was drafted in the 2nd round, if memory serves correctly. Right? It was a 2nd-round pick?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
I believe it was, yeah.
The only guy he has to really beat out here for the starting job is Jaquiz Rodgers. Charles Sims is there, but I think he's already been relegated to the 3rd running back in the depth chart. And I think Ronald Jones has what it takes. Jaquiz Rodgers, I don't see him being a workhorse 3-down back. I think Ronald Jones could be that guy. I think he could shoulder the load of this offense, and I don't think he's going to have a hard time winning this job. So this is a guy who you could be getting as a serious, volume player with a lot of upside on a good offense. We think. This should be a really good team this year. We thought that last year. Various things happened. I think they get it right this year. And you could be getting him in the double-digit round. So, I mean, that's a guy I'm 100% monitoring. And if he is a double-digit round running back for me, when I go to draft in August, I will be snatching him up with confidence. I didn't actually look up where Jaquiz is going. I'm going to look that up while you talk. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, Jaquiz Rodgers is a smaller back, so I don't see him, like you said, I don't see him shouldering the workload. If anything, I think I could see these guys splitting the workload 50-50 because they're actually around the same size as far as weight goes. Ronald Jones is 6 feet tall, so that's the big difference. He's bigger. He's a big, tall back. He's going to put on some weight in the NFL more than likely. But for this first season, I think you're going to be looking at more of a 50-50 split between these two guys.
That's interesting. So according to, which side am I on? Fantasy Football Calculator, I'm seeing, where'd it go? I'm seeing Peyton Barber going in the 13th round at the end of it. And he's currently listed as the 4th running back on the depth chart. And I'm not seeing Jaquiz or Charles Sims even being drafted right now.
Wow. Really?
That's kind of weird. Let me, I'm going to keep looking really fast. Let's see. There's Ronald Jones in the 10th. Wow. Yeah, no. None of them. I'm all the way up into the 6th round, 5th round, 4th round, 3rd round. Yeah, they're not being drafted right now. Well, that's different.
Weird.
All right. Well, hey, something to monitor for sure, like we mentioned. Who's the guy that's standing out to you right now, Jason?
11th round, 6th pick, Marquise Lee, wide receiver out of Jacksonville. Guys, if he's available in the 11th round, you better grab that guy. I mean, at the moment, the way things are structured, he's probably the number 1 target, I'm thinking.
I completely agree. He got big money. He's definitely the number 1. It's behind him. There's a lot of question marks. I see a lot of people who are trying to invest capital in D.D. Westbrook and things, but right now D.D. Westbrook's like the number 5, number 6 wide receiver on the team's depth chart. Marquise Lee, to me, like you mentioned, he's the number 1 on this team, and behind him is all the question marks. Who's going to be the number 2? Who's going to be the rotational piece in the 3rd 3 wide receiver sets, and various other guys that are going to be plug and play. But yeah, Marquise Lee, he's the guy. Now, of course, the concern here, you have to imagine, is wide receiver, main option for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Blake Bortles. So that's probably what's driving his value down and probably going to keep him there. But I mean, we're talking late round flyers. Double-digit rounds. You're taking upside shots anyway, and I don't think you get much more of an upside than the number one receiver on a team. So I agree. That's one that definitely stands out to me, and one to definitely watch. So bold predictions. Do you think that he moves up by August?
You mean in average draft position?
Yes.
Yes, I do, and I think DJ Chark is going to find his way because, as far as I saw, he's not being drafted right now.
No, he's not. I didn't see him being drafted.
Okay, good. I think DJ Chark is someone who is probably going to be drafted as a late round flyer at the very least, because this is a guy that has a very good opportunity to challenge for that first spot. But at the moment, I definitely see Marquise Lee kind of holding that spot down.
I think it's bold. I think it depends on your league and your format. If you're in really deep leagues, if you're in a 14-team or larger, or if you're in a league that has 3 wide receivers, I could see a world where DJ Chark gets drafted in fantasy. But as a whole, I mean, I think especially after what happened last year with all the first-round wide receivers who none of them contributed anything in fantasy last year, second-rounder on a bad offense in a murky committee, I could see a world where he doesn't get drafted and he becomes a wait-and-see type guy. I mean, hey, if you have a really deep roster, maybe he's a bench stash. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Definite upside. We'll see. Right. Next guy that stood out to me, which, I mean, you just have to talk about him. What about in the 13th round? We talked about this even during our draft. Dez Bryant. I mean, he's going to sign somewhere, right?
You would think. I mean, he's going to come back down to earth and realize he's not worth what he thinks he's worth.
Very true.
So he's going to go somewhere, and regardless of where he goes, he's got to be a starter. I mean, with his upside, he may not be the Dez Bryant of old, but he's definitely a weapon and someone that a wide receiver needy team is going to use. They're going to bring him in. They're going to use him as a starter. He's going to get some volume. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to go up a little bit. But honestly, where he is right now as a free agent with no team, I'm actually okay with it.
Well, see, that's the thing. Yeah, I'm okay with it, and that's why I think he's a good sleeper. I would totally pull the trigger on him in the 13th round.
In the 13th round? Heck yeah.
Yeah, you're throwing a dart at the guy anyway. I mean, if he's signed somewhere, you're assuming he's at least going to be the wide receiver 2 and a red zone target, a guy who could be a really nice, wide receiver 2 for that team. Maybe not for fantasy. Definitely a guy with upside we know to be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, but, I mean, definitely a flex-worthy wide receiver 3 for your fantasy team. Why the heck not when you can get him in double digits, super late round, basically a throwaway pick anyway. So, yeah, that's something I'm going to monitor, and I don't expect him to be there come draft season because I think he will be signed, obviously, before we get into our fantasy drafts. I don't know, because I'm not buying the argument that he's going to be one of those, someone got hurt in camp or something to that effect, and now we have to go get Dez. I think that I know he hasn't been as elite as he was in years past, but his body of work and his build, his body type, his experience, that's going to land him a contract somewhere. Like you said, he'll probably bring down his asking price before it happens, but he'll sign somewhere, and then his value will shoot up. He'll probably be a mid-round pick. But as of right now in May, if you're drafting a guy you can get in the 13th round, Dez Bryant, that's someone definitely worth investing in, if you ask me.
I'd hate to see him go to Seattle. Honestly, I would hate to see him go to Seattle, and that's a team where he kind of makes sense.
They are pretty desperate, and he could fill that Jimmy Graham role, so I could totally see it.
Yep.
Guy that stands out for you, Jason.
Deshaun Jackson, 11th round, 8th pick, Tampa Bay. Yeah, I mean, he's not consistent enough to be somebody that you're going to take in early round. But definitely, if he gets into the 11th round, that's somebody that I'm going to be targeting.
I agree. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, he, like many other speedy wide receivers, are incredibly boom bust. So depending on your draft strategy, I mean, if we're talking best ball leagues, for instance, yeah, absolutely, you're drafting Deshaun Jackson because he'll have a week or two every season where he just blows the roof off and wins you the week. Owning him in redraft leagues and having to start him week to week can be rather infuriating. So he's definitely a guy that you're looking at as a matchup-based starter. a flex-worthy guy. I wouldn't be starting him as my wide receiver 2 with any confidence, but I know there's plenty of people out there that will, and they will. He might get drafted much earlier just because of name value. But, I mean, if he's sitting there in the, the 11th round, I mean, he's definitely worth a shot in the dark. At the very least, name value alone, he's probably going to have some trade value. So, I agree. He's a guy that I would pick up there. I like it. And I know we talked about Chris Godwin. I just don't see him replacing Deshaun Jackson this season because of the cap situation like we talked about before. I think that Chris Godwin is going to be competing for the number 3, but he could challenge for number 2 consistency from time to time with 3 wide receiver sets. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Another guy that really stood out to me is the 12th pick in the 12th round, Kerryon Johnson. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are trying to point out that the Lions are terrible at running the ball, which is true. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Reggie Bush. But they've invested heavily in their offensive line, including a first-round pick this year. They've brought some guys in. There's some good blocking tight ends. They have upgraded pretty consistently across the board. We brought in a new fullback. And Kerryon Johnson has basically no competition. From what we can tell, and this is what we're seeing from the outside looking in, it sounds like it's going to be Kerryon Johnson. I expect him to be the lead back, and I think LeGarrette Blount is going to be the goal line back / change of pace. And then when they need a pass-catching situation, this is going to be, I think, very Patriots-esque. I think that Theoretic will come in to be that change of pace, third down, pass-catching option. I think Kerryon Johnson can do the job, but they're going to want to split it up and not be telegraphed. Basically, what I'm hearing from reports out of Detroit is simply that Amir Abdullah is the one that's fallen by the wayside. It's going to be these 3 guys kind of in a rotation. Because of that, I can see a world where people are scared off, and therefore he's fallen into basically the 13th round. But to take a shot at a guy who could be getting you at about 200 attempts this year in the 13th round, at least 200 touches, for sure, if he's catching the ball, I'll invest that draft capital. That's a very sneaky sleeper, if you ask me. It could be a running back 1, not for fantasy, but for his team. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is a sleeper you're going to have to keep your eyes on, because if Amir Abdullah gets traded, which is a very real possibility, I mean, right now they have got a lot of running backs in that running backs group. Okay, you've already mentioned Theo Riddick, LeGarrette Blount, Kerryon Johnson, Zach Zenner, Nick Bowden, Amir Abdullah. I mean, they may drop Amir Abdullah. He's got a contract they probably want to get rid of, want to shed, move him somewhere else where he has an opportunity, which would be good for Amir Abdullah, to be honest. I think get behind a better offensive line. I think he could be a better back. And if that happens, I would definitely pick up Kerryon Johnson, because he's going to get the opportunity, as Griffin already said, to be the lead guy there.
Yeah, I don't see a world where Amir Abdullah generates much interest, though. He's going to definitely be, maybe, if he does get traded, a camp body. I mean, a former second-round pick, but he is at a atrocious, I would say, career to this point. So, we'll see.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, that's the thing. If you get him on a prove-it deal, and there are a lot of GMs out there that love to do this kind of thing. Bring in a guy that has a lot of upside that you saw in the draft, and bring him on a prove-it deal. A league minimum prove-it deal, and you get something out of him. It could be like a Chris Johnson situation in Arizona a couple years ago, and he could blow up.
I mean, you're not wrong. And if he can stay healthy, that's obviously the key detail, because his career to this point has been...
That's the main problem.
Oh, man, his injuries have really been what's derailed him. It's been bad offensive line play. It's been a lot of other things. But, I mean, you can't be productive if you're not on the field. So, we'll see. I don't know if he's going to play in Detroit this season, or if he's going to make the team if he's there. I assume that he will. He'll probably be the 4th back. But there's Zach Zenner's there, who we all like as a show. I know you and I are very high on based on flashes we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Never seems to get the opportunity to do anything, but we like him in situations. Dwayne
reminds me of a Danny Woodhead a little bit.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I said Dwayne Johnson. Nope, not Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Washington is there. One or two of these guys aren't going to make the team, so the cutoff's going to be somewhere. All these guys have flashed in the past, but I think it's Kerryon Johnson's job now to seize, and he's got the opportunity to do it. So he's a guy that I'm watching again is basically a 13th round pick. A guy that stood out to you, Jason.
Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum from Kerryon Johnson, who's just starting his career and who is dealing with Amir Abdullah, who's hurt all the time, we have a perennial guy that is just always there, always doing more than you think he's going to do. In the 14th round, Frank Gore, running back out of Miami. This dude is an Iron Man. I mean, every year he just keeps producing, and he's always pushed further and further down draft boards, and then he produces again. Look, if he's there in the 14th round, you take Frank Gore. That's just a no-brainer. I don't think he's going to be in the 14th round when we get to draft time. I think he's going to move up boards. I don't expect him to be in the early rounds, but I definitely expect him to be at least in the mid-rounds.
See, I don't know if I see Frank Gore making it into the middle rounds because I think that anyone who knows a thing or two are going to be scared off on him. I mean, obviously he has great name value, but the dude is in his late 30s now at the running back position. Kenyon Drake is there, a guy that we all like, so in fantasy circles they know that that's that congestion point. They did draft a 4th-round running back in, was it Kalen Ballage? Was that his name? Kalen Ballage, I think. It's going to be contested. We all loved Kenyon Drake going into the offseason. We were very high on him. He's still going pretty high in drafts, as we talked about on Friday's episode. But I think this is all going to level out soon. I think that Kenyon Drake's going to drop as people realize Frank Gore is there. Kalen Ballage is drafted. It's going to be murky, and I don't know who's going to be the clear starter. Right now, Frank Gore is listed as the starter on the depth chart. I would have assumed that it was Kenyon Drake, and then Frank Gore was the change of pace red zone back. But here I am standard corrected. So I agree that he will move up. I don't know how high he will go based on, obviously what we know about how they're going to use him and his name value. It's going to fluctuate up and down because of all these factors. I don't know. I don't expect him to be in the 14th round, though. I will say that. So I guess I do expect him to move up from where he is. Anything else you want to add?
No, like I said, I learned a long time ago not to count out Frank Gore. So keep your eye on him.
Excuse me, big yawn. Apologize for that.
Big yawn. My bad.
I know that was bad. I thought I was going to talk longer. All right. So the next guy that I have is Michael Gallup. Now he was a 3rd-round pick taken by the Dallas Cowboys, wide receiver, currently going in the 14th round. Guys, this is a dart throw. This could be the last guy that you draft before you draft either a kicker or your defense, whichever one you still need. And this is a guy who could, by the time the season is over, be the number 1 wide receiver in Dallas. Someone has to catch the ball there. Well, it could be, though. Des Bryant, gone. Jason Witten, gone. What do they have right now? They have Terrence Williams, who is basically borderline useless, not to mention the fact that he was just arrested in San Francisco for the public intoxication, which might trickle down. I don't know if it'll affect his status with the Cowboys, but it's noteworthy. And you have to also think that, who else is there? I mean, Deontay Thompson, he's not really done a lot in his career, obviously formerly of the Buffalo Bills. Tavon Austin is there, but he's never been more than a Swiss Army type guy. They will keep saying they want to use him as a running back.
Running back. Alan Hearns.
Alan Hearns is there, who I expect to compete, but I still think that when it's all said and done, right now, Michael Gallup and Alan Hearns will be the 1-2. And rotational pieces
Cole
at
Beasley.
the 3rd. No, Cole Beasley. No, actually, no. Cole Beasley is still there. Yeah.
He's there.
Would
Deontay
you rather?
Thompson. I mean, they've got some people. Okay, I'll say that they've got some people that could make some noise and do some things, but there's nobody that you look at their name and you just go, oh, he's going to catch lots of passes. There's just nobody there like that right now. So really, it's very, very murky. This may be the murkiest wide receiving core in the league. Terrence Williams pretty much is their best guy right now, honestly.
Which is
and
should never be the case.
Much.
Yeah.
But should never be the case. If that's the case, you're in a bad way.
Would you, if Tavon Austin does actually play as wide receiver, would you rather have Tavon Austin and his inconsistencies or Cole Beasley and his really, really bad 2017 season as your starting slot receiver?
Neither.
Well, you have to pick one. I think they have KD.
If you put a gun to my head and make me pick between Cole Beasley and Tavon Austin, I'd probably go with Tavon Austin just because I know they're going to try to use him in the backfield too. So that's just more touches for me.
I agree. I'm going to be intrigued to see how it plays out. But I do think that Michael Gallup will be the number 1. He'll be the outside guy for them. And then who knows? It'll be rotational. Alan Hearns has paid a lot of money. I think he'll be in there. I don't think Tavon's a running back. I don't think they're going to use him as a running back. I think that they're just saying that to be headline worthy. He's going to be a wide receiver. I think he's going to be a slot guy. So that's why that conversation was relevant. Ayo, there it is, behind the scenes. Jason, why don't you give me, one more? You have one more?
I've got a couple more, actually. But
right.
One I want to talk about, 13th round, third pick, Paul Richardson in Washington. Now, I know what you're thinking, Washington. I mean, it's really murky there, and just got a new quarterback and whole new system, new face in a new place. Yeah, well, that's why he's in the 13th round. He had a couple of really nice games last year. I think he has the opportunity to be somebody that Alex Smith really likes to throw to. So if he's in the 13th round, I would have no problems putting Paul Richardson on my team.
Fair. Okay, so Paul Richardson, he's going to be a starter for them. So I agree. I don't know if I would take him incredibly higher than this, but if he's there in the 13th round, yeah, absolutely. I'll take that shot in the dark.
I would agree with that.
Super boom bust guy, but something to monitor. I'll side with that. You have
last one.
So you had one more?
I got one more.
Okay.
And this is just an honorable mention because we all know this is not going to stay as it is. This guy is going to go up draft boards, soon. He's going to start shooting up draft boards. In the 15th round, 7th pick, Mark Ingram, running back, New Orleans. The only reason he is there is because he is suspended. But when he comes off of suspension, more than likely, he's their 1-2. He's the first and second down back. So you've got to take him if he's this low. I mean, there's just no. If you get to the end of your draft and Mark Ingram is there, if you don't take him, that is just probably the dumbest thing you'll do all year.
I did not see Mark Ingram at the back of the draft. I guess that's on a which average draft position list did you find him there on?
I found him there on fantasydata.com.
Yes, that is another one. I'm trying. I'm going to see where he's going on Draft Calculator. If he is at all. I mean, he might not be being drafted here based on standard
because
leagues.
of the situation. Yeah.
New
I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, "Are you serious?"
New Orleans Saints running back. Because that was a point of conversation that we had when he got suspended. We're like, is he going to even be drafted at that point? Because there was all the off-the-field concerns, the fact that he was going to be the backup anyway, if they were going to phase him out and maybe even make him the third. Yeah, he's not being drafted right now. Ooh,
yep.
That's interesting. That completely overlooked it. Wow, our predictions came true, Jason. Look at that.
Yep.
All right. I thought I had one more. Oh, that's the obvious one right there. You got to draft Eric Ebron in the 14th round. I mean, he's.
I don't see that as an obvious thing.
No, okay.
I definitely don't.
Fine, then we'll leave that one off. All right, so then that will do it today. Please make sure you guys come back on Friday. We'll be back with another show. We're going to be talking some more Dynasty conversations. We just wanted to get this quick show out to you guys. We're working on some bigger shows, obviously, but this is important stuff. We know a lot of you are drafting already, which I know sounds crazy to people who don't play Dynasty, but this is kind of important things that we're highly recommending that you look at it. Even if you're doing redraft leagues, these guys make sense. Obviously, in dynasty drafts, these guys are going to be drafted higher because a number of these guys we named were rookies, so they're going to go much earlier. If you're in keeper leagues or rookie drafts, they're obviously this news doesn't necessarily apply, but you can still take the information we're giving you about these players, the upside of them, and extrapolate that forward to your league, your format, how you work. These are based these rankings where they're going right now. We're talking about their ADP or their average draft position is based on standard redraft leagues being based on mock drafts that are happening right now. So it's information that we can use as long as you properly know how to use it. I guess we'll sign off with that. Any parting thoughts, Jason?
Oh, we've already said it. You should be mock drafting now. I mean, seriously, you should be mock drafting as much as you can. You should be starting to put together your preliminary board, putting together your rankings, Start doing the work.
I agree. And remember, if you have any questions, send them in. Easiest way is on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, on our Facebook page. You can follow us individually as well. I'm at G Palmer FFF. Jason's at Jason Cabrera 13, and we'll be back on Friday. Maybe with CJ. Who knows? All right, so we're out of here, everyone. Take care. Have a great week. We will see you on Friday. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't till I die.